Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Blue Stable podcast. I'm yours truly, Marcus. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We are here to talk the week matchup where the Colts are heading to Pittsburgh week 9. They're going to be heading to Pittsburgh to face Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and that Pittsburgh Steelers team. Now, the Steelers, of course, aren't on the greatest side of football right now, but they still have a chance to turn around. It is never too late. So this should be an interesting matchup to see what they have going on. And if anybody knows the Pittsburgh Steelers to try to take advantage to have their chance of making the playoffs, they're going to do so. They're very competitive. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. Never really has a losing season. This team always stays in it till the very end. And had Aaron Rodgers to that freight. After these last few weeks, he's been throwing a lot of good footballs. Of course, they all didn't amount to wins, but that has a lot to do with their defense and their inconsistency on offense. But I think Aaron Rodgers has been playing decent football, just to give him credit where credit is due. But this team, the Steelers team, is very unorthodox. They're unpredictable, but they always can catch you and sneak in a win. When they least expect it. And I would choose them to be the wild card team to beat a team like the Indianapolis Colts that are the best in the NFL, knowing what they have at stake. They are the team, the sleeper team that can do that. Now, I could say this is a potential trap game because if you look at this team on paper, this Steelers team is really good on paper, offense and defensively. Of course, the run game is a little iffy, but when you look at the wide receivers, the tight ends, the offensive line is a little suspect. But quarterback play is there. When you look at their defense, it's loaded with talent all throughout the defense. With Slay, you got Ramsey, Watt, all of those guys. Just a bunch of Joey Boy Jr., a bunch of guys all over the offensive defense that could just go out there, household names. But they just haven't been panning it together, and it's been unfortunate to see as a Steelers fan. But like I said, the chance is still there. The odds are still in their favor slightly, but they got to do a lot of more winning than losing, if you get what I mean. But to piggyback off of that, this Colts team just come off a victory, another win, and this time was against the Titans again, which wind up sweeping the Titans. The offense is just clicking on all cylinders. The defense found life in the late in the second half. But this Colts team has been playing out of their minds right now. They're playing very good football, and they have been injured. They've been banged up all year, but the way they found ways to win the game is very commendable, I would say. This offense is playing out of their minds into a different type of realm of football. This is something we have not expected from this Colts team, but they are playing good football, so we got to give credit to Shane Steichen and that offensive line. Jonathan Taylor's on the MVP run. Heck of a game from him last week. Made history for the rushing touchdowns in Colts history, so that was good to see. Well, touchdowns in general. So that was good to see from Jonathan Taylor. Like I said, another game where he just can look invincible, just unstoppable. And I think over time, honestly, Jonathan Taylor looks like he's getting faster and faster each week. Like I said, there are so many times, especially last game, where the defense was out there for so long and the offense was just itching to get back on the field. And as soon as they got back on the field, Jonathan Taylor ran for 80 yards on the first play. Insane. This guy is just a maniac on the loose. But you got to give a lot of credit to that offensive line. Their offensive line is playing out of its mind. The chemistry is just perfect right now for what we're seeing. Like I said, honestly, from this offensive line, what we've seen from last week and going into this week, the chemistry is just makes them one of the best offensive lines in football. Of course, from the left tackle going into right tackle, Gonsalves is playing pretty decent ball. Braden Smith is just being himself. Bernard Ryman still has some iffy reps, but he's holding it in there. But a lot of this is going from Big Q and Tanner Bortolini. Bortolini is having himself an amazing season. He's the guy that we drafted and, predicted to have the starting role after Ryan Kelly's departure because we knew about him being on the brink of leaving before the season started, even though he went to Minnesota. But like I said, with him going and Will Fries leaving as well, both going to Minnesota, we were like the right guard and center position might be a little suspect. But these guys has definitely put the league on notice that these guys are some of the top tier guys, and they're playing very good football at an elite level. And like I said, even for Casalves, switching positions when he got into the league and playing where he is now is just definitely got to give him respect. This offensive line is playing amazing football, run blocking, as you've seen from the pictures and the designs, schemes. Like they're just blocking everything in their way, and it's nothing but clear lanes for Jonathan Taylor to run through. Even when it looks like there's something out of nothing, Jonathan Taylor is so elusive. He still finds a way to sneak through and find the end zone. Like I said, he's playing at an MVP level. It is kind of disrespectful to not have him top five and MVP conversation, if not top three. But you know how the league is when it comes to MVP votes. It is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. But like I said, most of these awards they give it to offensive player of the year. But I think when you look at it at an actual vote, when you look at most valuable player, Jonathan Taylor has to be that name in the discussion. Just been playing great football. So going up against this Pittsburgh team, like I said, this defense is on the bad side of football, probably one of the worst defenses in the league. A lot of people say Father Time caught up with the defense, with Ramsey and Slay and those guys. Slay barely playing. But like I said, this is another team that, can pretty much have a 3-4 front, have some disguises out there. They're very well coached. They can go out there and make some noise. Now, through recent history with TJ Watt and Braden Smith, TJ Watt, he's been having some fits against Braden Smith in recent history when it comes to these type of games. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this offensive line matches up with this defensive line. TJ Watt had a pretty quiet week last week. I know he's going to try to make some noise. They're going to be at home. This game is outside. The weather's breaking. It's getting a little cold. So that might have an effect. Looking forward to seeing how this team's going to how this team is going to manage, getting late into the cold weather. It's starting to get cold outside. The weather's breaking. So, it's going to start to get more grimy when it's starting to play football. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team, fight adversity. Being on the road, like I said, when you have one of the best records in the league, you have a target on your back. So you got to go out there and play good football. So with each week, you got to get better by 1%, 1% better each week, man. Win or lose, records don't matter at this point. You just got to go out there and play good ball. You got to go out there and play good ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team looks, especially offensive line wise. How the blocking is going to look. Are they going to be on chemistry? Are they going to be in sync? Like I said, Mike Tomlin, head coach, is a good team. Regardless of the record, they're going to give you a run for their money. So it's going to be interesting to see how this offensive line looks. When it comes to Daniel Jones, just continue to play clean football. Hitting your targets, hitting them in stride. When you look at the injury report, we still have a few players, battling injury, but they're going to be active. The more the merrier. Jalen Jones, like he's going to be returning soon, which is a good sight. Kenny Moore is going to be active. This team, they're getting to full strength towards the middle of the season, so that's good. Like I said, they've been battling injuries all year, been battle tested, but they've been fighting adversity. With all the injuries, they still look like a very good football team. And you got to give that credit a lot to the coaches. They prepare these guys, they focus, they're locked in, and they're ready to play. This is something that we're not used to seeing from this team. The recent history, like I said, it's just a different feel in Indianapolis right now. So they're going to be on the road looking for some roadkill against Pittsburgh. Like I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to bounce back and get a win this week. They lost last week against the Packers, which was to the last minute, I would say. They put up a good game, but it just couldn't pan out, with turnovers and things like that. So ball security is going to be an issue for both teams. Both teams got to learn how to hold on to the football. So it's going to be very interesting to see who can play more clean football. It's going to be the Steelers or the Colts. Now, when you look at this Colts team going up against Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks, regardless of age, but up there in age, the speed is decreased, so you got to keep him in that pocket. Of course, he can make something happen. It's not as mobile, but your objective would be to make him uncomfortable. Like I said, with this unproven offensive line for the Steelers, you would want to think that the Colts pass rush will get home this week. Like I said, they had chances last week, really couldn't do it. They got through there a few times, but in general, going up against the Steelers team, you got to go get Aaron Rodgers. You got to bring him down. It's just that simple. So looking forward to seeing the defensive line for the Colts try to win their reps this week, bring the quarterback down, bring down Rodgers, because if you give him a chance, he would definitely make you pay for that. Like I said, he still has talent. The talent is still there. He does have targets too. It's just the fact of getting the ball out, just due to the offensive line. But if you give him time, Aaron Rodgers is going to look like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So that can't be an issue this week. The Colts defensive line has to win their reps, and they got to bring down Rodgers. It's just that simple. Like I said, for the Colts on the defensive side, when you look at the run game for the Steelers, it's probably going to be favored to the outside, and that's what's come to another issue for the Colts. Run defense in the middle, it's been pretty good. Outside runs will probably be their weak suit, the weak side for the defense for the Colts. Running it to the outside will probably be the favorite for the Steelers, and that's pretty much what their scheme is. Not a lot of inside runs, more outside. And if they can target the middle of the field, the linebackers in coverage, they have been getting better. The Colts defense linebackers, they have been getting better, and Lou Anarumo does a pretty good job at hiding that as well with disguises. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of scheme Lou Anarumo goes up against his team with the Steelers and their offense. He has a huge history, a big history with them just by being with the Bengals in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see what Lou Anarumo could bring against Aaron Rodgers, who's pretty much a statue back there in the pocket. So I'm looking forward to seeing more designs. We've seen a few flashes last week against Cam Ward. So I'm going to be interested to see what they do this week. Just know what they're going up against. Probably get some more stunts. Probably get more safeties out there on the field as usual. But the Colts got to take advantage of the situation they have at hand. Like I said, with this offensive line, the defense just has to eat. And the offense just got to be that high-scoring offense that we're used to seeing. And if so, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't think it's going to be. If the Colts come out in the trap game, it could be a close game. Just due to it being Mike Tomlin and the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and staying in the game and fighting. Like I said, with the Colts' lack of depth, I think it could be a good. And they've been on the road with the weather breaking. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I still have the Colts walking away with the victory, but I think it's going to be closer than we think if they're not in their P's and Q's. So I think this is a potential trap game for the Colts, but I do see them walking away and winning this game. But you guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How do you feel about this matchup? If you're a Steelers fan or a Colts fan, how do you feel? What do you have the key players being? My key players personally for offense, of course, is going to be Jonathan Taylor and Josh Downs. I think both of these two guys can definitely, be those guys, the staples for the offense for the Colts, just to keep the momentum going and pushing the pace of the style of football for the Colts. So Josh Downs, if he's playing, and then Jonathan Taylor, of course, would be my two guys. For the defense, I'm going to choose Liatu Latu, and I'm going to choose Cam Bynum. Those are going to be my two guys for the defense for the Colts to be my key standouts. Hopefully those guys can go out there and make some noise and, will this team to victory. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We'll probably be live on this game on game day, so tune in on X, the Twitter app, Twitch. Check us out on Twitch, and check out our articles. We go live. We post articles on the website, which is thebluestable.com. So check that out. And then we're available all platforms, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, you name it. Just look up the Blue Stable Podcast and you'll find us. My name is Marcus, and we're on TikTok. My name is Marcus, Facebook as well, and Instagram. And until next time, go Colts, stay safe, enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.